In the charged atmosphere following a week of seismic shift in Western policy, Estonian Prime Minister Kallas delivered a powerful and unsparing critique of the Trump administration's new strategy, signaling a profound sense of betrayal among America's staunchest allies on NATO's eastern flank. Speaking from Tallinn, the leader of a nation that lives under the constant shadow of Russian aggression declared that she would not be deceived by what she termed the illusion of toughness. Kallas argued that the headline, grabbing American plan to seize Russian sovereign assets while sounding resolute, was in fact a dangerous distraction that masked a retreat from the hard, practical, and immediate military support Ukraine desperately needs to survive. Her intervention led bare the deep anxieties of frontline states who believe Washington is replacing effective military deterrence with high-risk financial gambles. The Prime Minister's comments made during a televised national address were a direct and pointed rebuttal to the narrative being championed by President Donald Trump and Attorney General Pam Bondi. While acknowledging the surface-level appeal of making the aggressor pay, Kallas meticulously dismantled the policy's logic from the perspective of a nation for whom the war in Ukraine is an existential matter. A Ukrainian soldier in a trench does not need a promise of a frozen asset being litigated in a New York court years from now, he stated, her voice firm. That soldier needs artillery shells today. A family in a Kyiv apartment building does not need a complex financial instrument. They need an air defense missile to intercept the next Russian cruise missile. We must not confuse action that makes us feel good with actions that are actually effective on the battlefield. Kallas' central argument was that the United States was creating a false equivalency, presenting the asset seizure as a substitute for the heavy weaponry it was simultaneously denying Kyiv. She explicitly referenced the administration's decision to withhold long-range missiles, a move she described as a strategic blunder that grants Russia sanctuary to continue its campaign of terror. To deny Ukraine the weapons it needs to win, while simultaneously initiating a measure that could destabilize the global financial system, is not a coherent strategy, she asserted. It is a strategy of contradiction. It is loud, but it is not strong. True strength is providing our Ukrainian partners with the tools to defend their land, silence the Russian guns, and drive the invaders out. Everything else is secondary. The Estonian leader went further, echoing the grave warnings that had emanated from President Trump's own Treasury Secretary, Scott Benson. He expressed deep concern that the unilateral American action to seize sovereign funds would backfire spectacularly, harming the West more than Russia in the long run. For decades, the strength of the West has been built on a rule-based international order and the stability of our financial systems. Kallas explained, the US dollar is the world's reserve currency because it has been seen as a safe haven, governed by the rule of law. If we abandon that principle for short-term political gain, we risk triggering a global loss of confidence that could unpower our adversary, like China, who seek to create an alternative financial architecture. We cannot win the war against authorizationism by adopting its disregard for established norm. He warned that such an action could provoke tit-for-tat seizures of Western corporate assets and lead to a fracturing of the global economy, making it harder, not easier, to sustain the long-term economic pressure on Moscow. Her speech was also a lament for the breakdown of Western unity, which she laid squarely at the feet of the current American administration. She drew a direct line from the failure of the NATO aid plan in Brussels to the unilateral asset seizure announcement. The NATO plan, she reminded her audience, was designed to create a predictable, unified, and sustainable mechanism for military support, insulating it from political whims. Its collapse, followed by Washington's go-it-alone financial maneuvers, sent a chilling message to the eastern flank. Unity has been our greatest weapon against Russian aggression, she said. The Kremlin fears our collective resolve more than any single weapon system, but recent decisions have shown a preference for unilateral disruptive actions over the hard work of building and maintaining consensus. This disunity is a gift to Vladimir Putin. It is precisely the outcome he has been working to achieve since this war began. Kallas spoke not just for Estonia, but as the de facto voice for the collective anxiety of the Baltic states and Poland. These are nations that have consistently warned about the threat from Moscow for decades and have been among the most generous supporters of Ukraine on a per capita basis. From their vantage point, the physical presence of NATO troops and the steady flow of advanced American military technology are the only true guarantees of security. The recent American policy shift, characterized by the burden-sharing rhetoric and a focus on financial warfare over military might, are perceived as the beginning of a U.S. retreat from its traditional leadership role in European security. The German plan to fund Ukraine's budget was welcome, she noted, but it could never replace the unique military and strategic leadership of the United States. The Prime Minister's address was carefully crafted to avoid a direct personal attack on President Trump, instead focusing on the substance and consequences of his policies. She praised the historic support America has provided, but framed her critic as an urgent appeal from a loyal and worried ally. An ally's duty is not to offer silent applause for every decision, she stated. A true ally speaks the truth, especially when it is difficult. And the truth is that the current path is fraught with peril. It trades concrete security for a symbolic victory and undermines the very foundations of our collective strength. In Washington, Kallas' speech was received with irritation in the White House, but with knowing nods in the Department of State and Treasury. A White House spokesperson dismissed the critic, stating that President Trump is pursuing a strong new strategy to hold Russia accountable without writing endless blank checks, and he will not be deterred. However, officials at the State Department under Secretary Marco Rubio saw her comments as an articulation of the widespread alarm among key European allies that they had been warning the White House about. Her speech gave a public voice to the private diplomatic anxiety that had been building for weeks. For Kaja Kallas, a leader known for her clear-eyed and hawkish stance on Russia, the situation was dangerously clear. She sees a war that must be won through military force. While the most powerful military in the world appeared to be pivoting away from that core task, she perceived a fundamental misunderstanding in Washington of the reality on the ground in Eastern Europe. Her message was a stark warning that she and the nations on the front line of this conflict cannot be fooled by loud noise and dramatic gesture. They measure support in terms of tanks, artillery, and air defense system, not in complex legal filings. And by that measure, in their eyes, American leadership was failing a critical test. Many of my listeners, like 70%, haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, and so many of you don't even know that you haven't subscribed. And that is actually what makes the show going. It's almost like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask again and again, because it enables us to grow and grow and grow. And we're going for the long haul here. And listen, if this is your first time listening to So Hey Rich, you don't have to subscribe. You guys, your first one's on me. But if you have watched this show before, it's like you are a freeloader now. So all I would ask you is, if you have seen this show before and you like it, help me, help my team here. Hit that subscribe and like button now, and we will continue to build a show for you. That I swear. Thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. That's all for me for today. I will see you soon. Bye for now.